Hey there. Uh, Welcome to another episode of Blake's Everyday Podcast. I got an investment today. I actually got one of those stand things, which is pretty cool. Spent probably about 15 bucks on it. It's a it's an investment, if you ask me. I've just been kind of leaning my phone against my desk for like the longest time, and I was like, you know what? It'd be nice to read and do the video in comfort. I got these couches in the background, as you guys have seen in the previous videos, but I've never had anything to lean the thing up against. I did do a couple videos from back here in the first couple videos, but leaning it on my coffee table out here, and I don't know, just the angle kind of, you know. Um, I hope everybody had a great day today. Tomorrow's Friday, another Friday. I don't think, I don't know. For me, the weeks go so fast, and I think it's just because I have kids. But and I never took that into consideration until I got older and had kids. It's crazy how fast everything goes. I swear when I was 19, every day, or even younger when I was in like high school and stuff, I'd be sitting there watching the clock, just like, come on, get this day over with. But now I'm like sitting here like, what seems to be a day is pretty much a minute, and I don't remember the whole day ever, and it's just crazy. How fast time flows when you have kids and you got other issues going on and all that. I did want to share a funny story tonight. So our road, my neighborhood road, it currently has a detour going through, well, around my area. And I'm the type of dad that I like to drive around just a little bit to see if my kids will go to sleep on the ride home. And I always do that in the neighborhood. I'm just like, I'll drive around the neighborhood, and I'll, even at that, I'll just be kind of, I almost feel like I'm neighborhood watch in a way when I do that. But I'll drive around for probably about 15 minutes, and then I'll get back home and go ahead and park the car or park the truck. But tonight there was a detour, and I was pulling down my road, and I guess somebody must have thought, hey, I'm going to follow this guy. He's following the detour. I led these guys for like probably 10 minutes. And I'm like, what are these guys following me for? Like, I was honestly confused, because I was like, oh, am I getting followed by some kind of like undercover FBI agent or something? Not that I have anything to hide, but it just was like kind of like, what the heck, dude? And I was, there's all kinds of questions flowing through my head, and I don't know. We got to a stop sign, and this person finally turned the other direction. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it clicked. I was like, that guy was totally following me because he was following the detour sign, and he thought I was going through the detour. But I don't know. I laughed pretty hard, but I also felt bad because these guys followed me for like literally 10 minutes through the neighborhood. And part of me wanted to get out and be like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to waste your time or anything. But yeah, that was That was probably my funny part of the day. Um, I am starting while the hockey game is going on in the background. There's nothing cool here going on because we are getting our butts kicked for the fourth game in a row, which sucks. We were on a really good streak, but if anything that this should teach us is to be humble. I know it's hockey. It's just, hey, they just disallowed a goal. I mean, it's hockey, and it's one of those things. Just like any sporting event, it's whatever, and we can't be living by idols. That's why I am busting out the gospel tonight, and I'm going to read it to you guys. I think we finished on chapter 37. Just to make sure. Yeah. I think we finished last night at chapter 37. Because I was kind of disappointed. I wanted to read more, but it was just, I don't know, you get to a certain point where you just kind of got to call it, especially like watching the clock. I can see the time, like the timer of the video down here, and it's already right now at 6 minutes and 40 seconds. So, I mean, you only got so much time to read. I like to stick it around 30 to 40 minutes. That's kind of a perfect time. Each of these videos takes up like 6 gigabytes of storage, but I delete them after I post them, so that's cool. And if anybody ever wonders why I like to wear these glasses sometimes, and I probably will wear them more often, especially with this stand. These are like smart glasses, so basically it's kind of working as my microphone in a way. So when you see me wearing these, that's kind of why. But yeah, enough of my rambling, enough of my story talking. Let's go ahead and read. So we are at the chapter 38. The title for this chapter is Judah and Tamar. At the time Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hirah. There Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and made love to her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son who was named She conceived again and gave birth to a son named him Onan. She gave birth to still another son named him Shelah. It was at Kezib that she gave birth to him. Judah got a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Sleep with your brother's wife and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law, to raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the child would not be his. So whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death also. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law, Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up." For he thought he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's household. After a long time, Judah's wife the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Timnah to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hira, the Adullamite, went with him. I think I need to get glasses because I can hardly read at this angle, I guess. I will probably get better at reading at this angle, though, so I won't complain too much. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as his wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Dang. Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." "And what will you give me to sleep with you?" she asked. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord, and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Adullamite in order to get his pledge back from the woman. But he did not find her. He asked the men who lived there, "Where is the shrine prostitute who is beside the road at Enaim?" "There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her." Besides, the men who lived there said, "There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here." Then Judah said, "Let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughingstock. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you didn't find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death." As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. "I am pregnant by the man who owns these," she said, and she added, "See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah, and he did not sleep with her again." When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand to the midwife, took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist, and said, "This one came out first." But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "So this is how you have broken out." And he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was named Zerah. All right. Wow. All right, so we just finished chapter 38. We got 3 descriptions here to read. That's pretty wild. I mean, it's like a family tradition there. Chapter 38, verses 1 through 5. We are told that Judah moved from his family home, married a Canaanite girl, and settled down among the Canaanites. Some of Judah's unsavory activities in this chapter seem out of sync with what we might expect of one of Israel's patriarchs. We cannot help but wonder whether some of his behavior was not influenced by the people he was living with. The Canaanites were known for their immoral lifestyle. For us to progress spiritually, we need to spend time with people who will encourage us to live in a way that agrees with God's will for our lives. We may also need to give up the relationships that lead us into destructive activities. See, I really like that description. So I've had lots of friends in my past, and I like to think back now. At some point I was very judgeful of them, and it really upset me when they wouldn't answer their phones anymore. Completely just ignoring me, and I still have friends that I almost expect to answer my phone calls or something, and these are people that I hung out with for years. And I look back now and I realize the man that I've become, but also not just that, the person that they know me as, the person that wasn't holy, and I had a lot of stuff to work on at that time. And I realize now, maybe this is kind of what might have been happening, and that's great. I have no judgment over them. I don't hold a grudge, is what I mean. Of course, I don't have any judgment, but I'm not holding any grudges, especially to nowadays, because I've worked on myself. I have a family, and that's the best way to be about things. But these people that I used to hang out with, sure, I would love to be friends with them, but just probably maybe they were called by God to be better people before I was. I guess that'd be a great way to look at things. And who knows? Who knows what went on there? But chapter 38, 1 through 30, Judah's more sensational sin of propositioning a prostitute often blinds readers to his primary failure. According to the laws practiced at the time, if a husband died before fathering a son, his family was responsible for providing his widow with a husband. This was Judah's responsibility, but when his second son died soon after marrying Tamar, Judah was understandably shaken and delayed giving her his third son. It seems that Judah was hoping he would never be called upon to carry out his duty. His attitude didn't solve the problem, but only led to the sordid events that followed. It is easy for us to act like Judah, ignoring our problems, refusing to see the truth, or refusing to accept responsibility for our lives, blaming our problems on something or someone else. But a key to solving any problem is admitting we have it. Then we can take responsible steps to solve it. Again, another great description. Honestly. That kind of was weird to me. Not weird, but like it was definitely obviously her acting like a prostitute and stuff in the middle of the road was kind of weird. But basically his second son basically had sexual relations with his brother's wife in order to fulfill, the offspring. And since he spilled himself onto the ground instead of, breeding with her, he died. And it's crazy to me, how many, how much these things happen in today's world. I mean, I'm not saying that people die because they're masturbating or something, but, it just, this guy basically was practicing a type of safe sex in that time, I guess, and he got killed for it, which is wild. So chapter 38, verses 12 through 26. When Judah failed to deal with Tamar in a responsible way, Tamar decided to take action. And though what she did was not exemplary, she wisely confronted Judah in a way that caught his attention without alienating him. Like Tamar, we should strive to resolve our conflicts with others rather than let our pain simply fester within us. Yeah, another good, great description. It's better to talk about things rather than bottle them up and let them really boil. One thing about my past is, so I've kind of spoken about how I used to wrestle and stuff, and one thing that really got me was, I don't know, it was like a lack of, after wrestling and stuff, as I got older, I didn't have any outlet to put my frustrations anymore. I used to put it in football or wrestling or, you name it. And with no outlet, I became very, aggressive, especially when I was drinking very heavily. So, at least that's the way I see it. So whenever we would go out, never when I was around my wife or anything like that, but at a certain point, when I was out with my brother or something, I turned into a pit bull, and at least that's what, my brother or my dad would call me, as I was a pit bull. Once I've had too many, I turn into a pit bull. And when they said that, it's more like, just everything that I had bottled up, it just spewed out, and it turned into me fighting a lot of people. And, well, not a lot, but a few. And definitely doesn't help bottling stuff up. If you have the same problems, I recommend finding an outlet to kind of release that kind of tension, whether it be going to a jiu-jitsu gym or going and working out more often, or shoot, I'm sure they have some wrestling facilities, even after that's what I wish I could find. It's like a wrestling facility that I could just go and wrestle at, but it just seems like so many people are more into jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and I could care less about crawling on my back. I'd rather do what I know. But enough of my rambling. Wow. I have really taken over this Bible time with my own things. Chapter 39, the title is Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he is entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants. "Look," she said to them, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story, that Hebrew slave that you brought us came to me to make sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. When his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. All right, so that is the end of chapter 39. Wow, I mean, what the heck, Potiphar's wife? That's BS, man. We'll go ahead and read the descriptions. So chapter 39, verse 2, God blessed Joseph even in the worst of circumstances. Even as a slave in a strange household in a foreign land, God made Joseph a success. It should not be inferred that God will also make us successful. Rather, our chief goal should be to follow Joseph's example of being faithful to God's plan, no matter what the consequences. Yeah. Chapter 39, verses 7 through 18, Joseph withstood the temptation of Potiphar's wife, even though he was far from home, and the temptation continued day after day. This was not a one-time crisis, but a constant wearing temptation. How did he stand up to it? Two things seem to have helped: Joseph's respect for his master, and even more important, Joseph's respect for God. As we draw closer to God, we will begin to sense his presence in our life. Doing something that runs counter to his plan will cause us pain. Walking close to God will provide us with added protection against the temptations we face. I like that as well. I mean, these descriptions tonight are just really solid. Chapter 39, verses 19 through 20. Good guys often appear to finish last. The innocent seem to suffer. Here it looks as if Joseph's faithfulness to God was rewarded with years in prison. This may have discouraged Joseph, but it did not stop him. Even in prison, he continued living according to God's plan. In the end, after a number of setbacks, he was rewarded. We may need to look past present difficult circumstances to see that God has a purpose in our suffering. It may be an important part of our preparation for future work God has for us. Another good one. Chapter 39, verses 19 through 23. God was with Joseph even in prison. We're told that he prospered in everything he did, and though all his trials, Joseph remained faithful to God. It would have been easy for him to forget God's promises and just give up. When we forget God's promises, we may start to blame others and ignore our ability to act. We need to stop blaming and start working, doing our best in the situations in which God places us. All right. Let's go ahead and read chapter 40, and then we'll call it a night. So the title for chapter 40 is The Cupbearer and the Baker. Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the same prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, and he attended them. After they had been in custody for some time, each of the two men, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were being held in prison, had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's officials, who were in custody with him in his master's house, "Why do you look so sad today?" "We both had dreams," they answered, "but there is no one to interpret them." Then Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream. He said to him, "In my dream I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine were three branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in his hand." "This is what it means," Joseph said to him. "The three branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as he used to when you were his cupbearer. But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon. When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given a favorable interpretation, he said to Joseph, I too had a dream on my head. Were 3 baskets of bread. In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head. This is what it means, Joseph said. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and impale your body on a pole, and the birds will eat away at your flesh. Now the 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all his officials. He lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker in the presence of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, so that he once again put the cup into Pharaoh's hand, but he impaled the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. Dang. All right. We do have a couple descriptions here, just to make sure we don't have any more than just 2. Go ahead and flip the page. Yep, we're good. Chapter 40, verses 1 through 8. Here we see Joseph's consistency gained the respect and trust to his jailer and his fellow prisoners. One can imagine that the normal prisoner then, as now, was a pretty sullen character. This makes Joseph's acceptance by them even more significant. Joseph recognized that he could do nothing to change his circumstances, so he sought God and surrendered to him in the midst of them. Chapter 40, verse 23. After prophesying the cupbearer's release, Joseph must have felt disappointed when he was forgotten. But here again, Joseph refused to give in to despair. He didn't poison his life by complaining and assigning blame. He didn't give up and grow bitter. Instead, he continued to live a life of faithfulness to God, trusting God to fulfill his plans. All right. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to go through. But tomorrow we will start at chapter 41. I hope you guys had a good Thursday. I hope Friday is amazing for you. Let's go ahead and say a prayer and end it off there. Dear Lord, we come to you today and just reaping the benefits of being alive and just being safe and healthy, Lord. We have been blessed to be here today with you and reading your word. We continue to learn, Lord, and we want to continue to learn. Just please keep us safe and healthy. Keep our families safe and healthy. Keep us in your arms, Lord, as we hug you and love you. Please keep watch over us as we lay our heads to rest tonight. And in God's name, amen. Hope you guys had a great day, like I said. Tomorrow's Friday. Yay! Good night.